I leaned back in my leather chair, the soft creak almost lost beneath the steady hum of the city outside my floor-to-ceiling windows. From here, the skyline of Chicago looks like it belongs to me, and in a way, it does. The late morning sun spills across my desk, glinting off the edge of a crystal paperweight, a gift from my first big client. I smooth the sleeve of my silk blouse, the fabric cool against my skin. My calendar is blocked with back-to-back meetings, but it's the faint buzz of my phone that freezes me. The notification glows on the screen. Request for meeting, Thomas Miller. My breath catches for the briefest second. I know that name. I know the way his laughter used to echo in that cramped hallway, the way he'd shake his head at my shoebox office like I was playing business instead of building one. I glance out at the street below, where yellow cabs weave through traffic. Somewhere down there, he's on his way up, into my building. My building. It's been years since we've spoken, but the memory of that smirk, that dismissive tone, is still sharp. The difference is now I hold the keys. Literally. I stand, adjusting my blazer, letting my reflection in the glass remind me of just how far I've come. If Thomas wants to talk business, he'll have to do it on my terms. 7 years ago, my office was barely the size of a walk-in closet. The walls were painted a tired beige, the kind that made you wonder if anyone had cared about this place in decades. The carpet was threadbare, stained near the corners, and the only window looked out onto a brick wall so close I could almost touch it. But to me, it was a kingdom in the making. I remember setting my second-hand desk against the wall, placing a chipped ceramic mug filled with pens right in the center. My grandmother's leather notebook sat beside it, worn and creased, with her words scrawled inside. Grow quietly. Let them notice later. It was a rainy Thursday when Thomas stopped by with 2 of my former coworkers. They had just been in the area and decided to see my big new office. His knock was loud, confident, as if he were walking into a joke he couldn't wait to tell. Wow, he said, stepping inside, glancing around at the mismatched furniture. Cozy. You going for the minimalist thing? The others chuckled. My smile felt stiff. I'm going for the starting somewhere thing, I replied, trying to keep my voice light. But the heat rose in my cheeks when they exchanged looks. Thomas leaned against the doorframe, smirking. Well, I hope you don't get lost in here. The laughter that followed seemed to echo long after they'd left. I remember sitting at my desk, fingers resting on the cool leather of Grandma's notebook, my chest tight. Every word of hers felt heavier now. I called my mom that night, telling her what happened. She sighed the way only someone who's seen dreams crushed before can sigh. Sweetheart, maybe you should think about getting a real job. The lump in my throat swelled. It would have been easier to give in, to believe they were right. But instead, I opened that notebook and wrote one line in bold ink. One day they'll see. The very next morning, I made my decision. I'd stop waiting for approval. I'd build quietly, brick by brick, until the laughter turned into stunned silence. And that was the day the real work began. The early years were nothing glamorous. I worked 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, eating instant noodles at my desk, the steam fogging at my glasses while I typed proposals I wasn't sure anyone would read. Money was tight. The rent on my tiny office was due on the first of every month, and some months I made it with only hours to spare. But every bill I paid on time felt like a small victory, a sign I was moving forward. I learned fast that the business world doesn't hand out favors, especially not to a young woman with no real experience and a rented desk. But what I lacked in connections, I made up for in persistence. I cold called clients, pitched my services in coffee shops, and took jobs others turned down because they seemed too small. Then came my first break. I met Margaret Lane at a networking luncheon, an older woman with a sharp wit, a flawless navy suit, and a reputation for building million-dollar companies from scratch. She listened to my pitch with the kind of focus that made me sit up straighter. You've got guts, she said finally. And you're not afraid of small beginnings. That's rare. Let's see what you can do. Margaret became my first major client, and her endorsement opened doors I never thought possible. I poured myself into her project, researching, planning, delivering beyond expectations. When the campaign succeeded, word spread. Slowly, I built a portfolio that spoke for itself. There were setbacks, deals that fell through, months when income dipped so low I thought about quitting. But each time, I'd run my fingers over the worn cover of Grandma's notebook and remind myself why I started. Over time, the shoebox office couldn't hold me, or my growing team. We moved into a larger suite 2 floors up in the same building. It still wasn't flashy, but it was ours. I hired 2 assistants, then 3. The workdays were still long, but now they were filled with a quiet hum of printers, the smell of fresh coffee brewing in the corner, and the steady rhythm of success taking root. I stayed quiet about it all. On social media, my updates were modest. Photos of my coffee cup, or an inspiring quote. I didn't flaunt the clients I landed or the contracts I signed. Let them think I was still trying. Then came the opportunity one never saw coming. The building went up for sale. The same old brick and glass tower where my tiny first office had been, where I'd been laughed at and underestimated. The asking price was steep, terrifyingly so. But by then, I had the means, the credit, and the determination. The day I signed the papers, I didn't throw a party. I didn't tell Thomas or anyone else. I just walked into the empty lobby after hours, heels clicking against the marble floor, and stood there in the stillness. From shoebox to skyscraper. Quietly. Just like Grandma said. The elevator doors slide open with a soft chime, and I step out onto the ground floor lobby. It's mid-morning, and the place smells faintly of polished wood and the vanilla sandalwood blend from the candles the concierge lights each day. The sunlight pours through the tall glass panels, catching on the gold lettering of the building's name, my name. Thomas is there, standing by the reception desk. He's dressed sharply, though the faint scuff on his shoes tells me it's been a busy morning for him. Beside him are 2 others from back then, both looking around the lobby with wide eyes, their gazes skimming over the marble floors, the tall indoor plants, the art pieces hanging on the walls. When they see me, Thomas straightens. "Rachel," he says with a smile that tries too hard. "It's been a long time." I nod, offering a polite, measured smile. "It has." "We were just admiring this place," he says, glancing upward at the intricate ceiling moldings. "Incredible building. I had no idea you worked here." I tilt my head slightly. "I don't just work here, Thomas." I pause, watching their expressions. I own it. For a moment, no one says anything. The words seem to hang in the air, suspended between us. One of the others laughs softly, as if I've made a clever joke. But when my smile doesn't fade, the laughter dies. "You own the building?" Thomas repeats slowly, his brows pulling together. "That's right. Every floor, every office, every key, including the one where my little shoebox used to be." I let the word linger, my tone light but deliberate. His mouth opens slightly, but no words come out. The other 2 glance at each other, their eyes wide. I can see the moment recognition dawns, the realization that all those years of assumptions, of quiet dismissal, were wrong. I gesture toward the elevator. "Come up. I'll show you something." We ride in silence to the top floor. When the doors open, they step into a wide reception area bathed in natural light. The walls are lined with photographs of my team, our projects, and the milestones we've hit. The furniture is modern but warm, cream leather chairs, sleek oak tables, fresh flowers on the counters. "This is the headquarters," I say, leading them past a conference room with a 12-foot glass table and a view of the river. From here, we run everything: marketing, strategy, client relations. It's been a busy few years. They follow me, their eyes darting from one detail to the next. I can almost hear their thoughts. The hours I must have worked, the deals I must have closed, the grit it must have taken to get here. I stop in front of a framed photograph on the wall, me, standing in my first tiny office, a wide grin on my face, the peeling beige paint in the background. Beneath it, in small script, are Grandma's words: "Grow quietly. Let them notice later." Thomas stares at the picture for a long time. I didn't know," he says finally, his voice low. "That's the thing about growing quietly," I reply, my gaze steady. People rarely notice until it's impossible to ignore. We move into my private office, the corner space with glass walls on two sides, sunlight spilling over the polished walnut desk. From here, the river gleams like liquid silver. The three of them take seats in the leather chairs opposite me, still glancing around like they've stepped into another world. Thomas clears his throat. Rachel, we're here because, well, we're looking for a strategic partner. The market's been rough lately, and we could use, he hesitates, then forces the words out, your expertise. I let the silence stretch for a moment. Years ago, I would have rushed to fill it, to prove myself. Not today. I see, I say finally, folding my hands on the desk. And what makes you think I'd be interested in working with you? The other two shift in their chairs. Thomas leans forward. We know we weren't exactly supportive back then, but this is business. We think it could be mutually beneficial. I study their faces. They're older now, lines etched around their eyes, but the same streak of self-interest is there. I remember the sting of their laughter, the way it chipped at my confidence. I also remember the years of pushing forward without their approval. I'm open to helping, I say slowly, but only on my terms. They nod quickly, relief flashing across their faces. First, I continue. Any collaboration means transparency, financial and otherwise. No hidden agendas. Of course, Thomas says. Second, you'll commit to mentoring at least 2 young entrepreneurs each year, people who remind you of the person you underestimated once. I let my gaze linger on Thomas. His jaw tightens, but he nods. Third, I say, leaning back in my chair, you'll invest in a community project of my choosing. Quietly. No press releases, no branding, just giving for the sake of giving. The room goes still. And lastly, I add, you'll respect the boundaries I set. I'm not here to rescue old colleagues. I'm here to build futures, for people who are ready to do the work. They glance at each other. The weight of the condition settles in. This isn't a handout, it's a challenge. After a long pause, Thomas speaks. We can agree to that. I give a small smile. Good. Because if you couldn't, this meeting would be over. As they rise to leave, I walk them to the elevator. Thomas hesitates before stepping in. Rachel. I'm sorry. For back then. I meet his eyes. I know. My tone is even, without bitterness. Now, let's see what you do with this second chance. The doors close, and for the first time in years, the weight of the past feels lighter. Weeks pass, and to my surprise, they follow through. I hear from Margaret, still my closest mentor, that Thomas attended a startup showcase she hosted, not as a guest of honor, but as a mentor to a 22-year-old app developer. One of the others sent me a brief email with a photo of a renovated community center they'd funded. No logos, no self-promotion, just kids in brand new classrooms. Change isn't instant, but it's happening. And watching it, I realized something. My victory was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could rise, even when no one believed I would. One late evening, after my team has gone home, I walk the quiet halls of the top floor. The city glitters outside, the river reflecting the streetlights like scattered stars. I stop at the framed photo of my old office, the peeling beige paint, the chipped desk, my younger self smiling like she knew this day would come. On my desk sits Grandma's leather notebook, the edges more worn now than ever. I flip it open to the first page, where her handwriting curves across the paper. Grow quietly. Let them notice later. I trace the words with my finger, smiling. I think about the girl who sat in that shoebox office, cheeks burning from the sting of someone's mockery, yet still holding on to her dream. She had no idea that one day, she'd hold the keys to the entire building. The phone buzzes on my desk, a message from Thomas. Just 2 words. Thank you. I set the phone down and look out at the skyline, feeling a deep, steady calm. Success isn't loud. It's not about shouting from rooftops or posting everyone online. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you've built. I close the notebook, slide it into the top drawer, and switch off the lights. As the elevator doors close, My reflection catches in the mirrored panel, and I can't help the small smile that curves my lips. They mocked my small office. I whisper to myself. Now they work in my building.